this is what I've been working towards. Let's go. Let's get all hands on deck. I got to hire another guy. Who's going to do this project?
What's the situation today, Todd?
Subs versus employees, pros, cons.
All
do
right.
you want employees?
Right.
Do you not want employees?
Do you want to talk about, is it right or wrong, more beneficial, less beneficial to have be just a general contractor, no employees, and just hire all subs? Or is it better to be the lead carpenter model and, have a bunch of lead carpenters and apprentices and maybe even start bringing in, your own electricians, or become, get your own electrical license and run that way, which is a lot of GCs do, that whole thing.
Yeah.
Those two different avenues.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What's your initial thought? And then maybe we can get into the nitty gritty of it all, but
and that's the thing, right? I mean, I've been doing this 20 plus years, right? And the first GC that I worked for, his business model was, he was the contractor, he had a project manager, and then he had carpenters of varying skills. So he would have his lead guy, and then he would have just, everyday carpenter, and then would have a laborer / apprentice. So while that guy was picking up materials, cleaning up job sites, he was supposed to be learning and hopefully climbing the ladder, and then you find someone to take his role, right? So that's the way I learned this business. And I did just that. I started out as a laborer / apprentice and worked my way up to carpenter, worked my way up to lead carpenter, and worked my way up to project manager. And then 2008 happened. But so to me, that always kind of made sense. And I liked the way I liked the way he ran his business. Of course, there were problems like anything else, especially in this business with all the variables, but I liked the way that was structured. So I adopted a similar philosophy when I first started. At least I was trying to get there. But as you know, when you're first starting your own business, just getting to that point, it's not like you just open your doors and say, hey, give me $1 million project, and then go hire a carpenter or hire a project manager. Like, you have to create a name for yourself. So you got to work your way up a little bit. So that's always the point I was kind of trying to get to. And over the years, I've gotten pretty comfortable in being kind of, I guess, maybe one tier less than that, which was like, I'm wearing too many hats and I'm doing the project management and doing the hands-on stuff. And then having help, I have I've had 2 employees for the past 3.5 years or so. Yeah, 3.5, 4 years. I've had 2 employees. And there's the pros and cons to that it's really a conundrum, because I look at, number one, that I had hired someone almost 4 years ago, and I spent 2 years, who took to things extremely quickly. So he was just an apprentice that I was teaching, and he was with me every day, doing everything, hands-on stuff, meeting with architects, meeting with designers, meeting with clients. So he had a crash course in a pretty short time span, and he was very bright. So he adapted pretty quickly. And unfortunately, he moved. So there's 2 years invested gone. Who's worked for me for almost 2 years now. He has his pros and cons like anybody does. He's really good with attention to detail stuff if he's in the mindset of doing something. So if you have him just trim out a room, he'll do a great job. I know I can leave all day and the room will get trimmed out and it'll look great. I can leave him to do a tile backsplash in the kitchen. It'll be fine. If you leave him to do a number of tasks, forget about it. Like, he's incapable of having his head on a swivel and knowing what the plumber is doing or what someone else is doing and how all this goes together. which I realize takes time to get there. But sometimes I feel like the way his mind works, he's just incapable of getting there. More to the point, I guess I've come to realize now, 45 years old, like I'm not building a business to give this to anyone. I don't have a son or anything where I'm building this business where I can just hand it off to someone one day. So I guess you start to look at that, which I know you've brought up multiple times, is just the, that work-life balance, right? So when you have employees, that's a lot because you're keeping those guys busy 40 hours a week. You're doing payroll. You have workers' comp costs. So when you start to factor all those things in, not to mention just babysitting them when they're learning things and paying for their mistakes, and then taking the time to show them how to do things that they did to begin with, show them how to do things, or show them how to do something when they did something wrong, right? So the amount of time spent and effort spent in that is just, you start to question, is this worth it? Like, is it worth it? And then you take some of those smaller projects because you want to keep those guys busy, right? So you figure, oh, okay, this person just needs 4 interior doors replaced and cased out and new hardware and some new trim. Cool. I can put my guys on it, keep them busy for a few days doing that. But inevitably, what happens? Something happens. Something. Whatever it is, something happens. So whether the door came in wrong or whether someone claims you scratched up their floors or whatever it is, the wall's like way out of plumb and you can't hang a door right. And so you get into this myriad of things where it's just like, why am I taking this small project when I don't need it? I don't need the money for it. I'm just trying to keep them busy. And then what happens? Like, you don't make any money on it because they spent so much time and had to make multiple trips and whatever else, right? For instance, it just happened on a small project, one of the cabinet shops I work with. 4 cabinets, 4 base cabinets, filler on each side, hardware, toe kick, and they were going to get a stone countertop that had nothing to do with me. That was it, right? So I figure, cool, that's one guy getting that done in a day. His cabinets are there and they're opened up and inspected and there's no damage. One guy's doing that in a day, no problem. Never even went to look at the project. You could say that's partially my fault because I never even went to look at it. But what happened, because you have 4 cabinets right next to each other, right where 2 of these cabinets are joining, there is an outlet dead center between the 2 of these cabinets. So now this outlet needs to get moved, right? So I told my guy, let the client know, at least cut a little piece of, take the cover plate off, see how many wires are in there. Let's send me some pictures. Let's see if we can just quickly diagnose this. If it's the end of the run, maybe we can just open up the drywall and shift it over one way or the other and we'll be fine, right? So he takes the cover plate off, takes the outlet out, and he said, Todd, I loosened the outlet and it just kept pulling out. Wire just kept pulling out. So he pulled about 4 feet of wire out of the conduit. Oh. About 4 feet of wire. So I said, what are you doing? I was like, first off, did the outlet work? And he goes, I don't know. And I was like, you didn't test it? You just took it out? You didn't test to see if it was live? You just disconnected it, pulled the outlet, and then just kept pulling wire out of the fucking conduit? Never testing if it was hot. I mean, holy cow, right? Like, and I know I've taught him this. Like, that's 101 basic. Like, test it. Is it hot? Is it live? Whatever. So he said, so what do you want me to do? And I was like, well, now I have no idea. I've never even been there. I was like, what's on the other side of the wall? Like, what? I don't even know where this room is in their house. So walk me through this. Like, seriously, get me on a video phone and walk me through here. What am I looking at? Show me what's that. Is this, hopefully there's like an adjacent outlet or a junction box and that just loosened up and you pulled that through. So show me the rest of the adjacent walls. This was like a little alcove. And then what's on the other side of this wall? So the adjacent walls, there was one outlet, didn't tie into that. The other one, there was nothing. So clearly didn't go that way. So he said, it looks like it's going like to the back and over. So I said, fine, what's behind the wall? Well, it turned out it was a bathroom. So I said, okay. Ask the client if they've had any work done since they've been there. So he went and asked them, and he said their bathroom was remodeled right before they bought the house. It was a freshly remodeled bathroom. So I said, okay, stop right now. I'm going to call my electrician, see if he has one of his guys in the area, see if he can come out and look at it, right? So electrician goes out there. Thankfully, he did have someone not too far away, went out there in the afternoon, looked at it. He said, Todd, someone when they're doing this bathroom remodel, they must have just cut wires. They must have taken a Sawzall right through a conduit and just cut it. He's like, there was no way the length of this wire was reaching anything else. So they just cut it and left it. So you just had a dead outlet on this wall. So he ended up having to do $2,000 worth of work to get this all squared away. And there, he said the bathroom was done wrong to begin with, overloaded circuits, blah, blah, blah. So now you have $2,000 worth of electrical work, which fine, it had to be done right. That's great. But now my small $800 charge for putting in cabinets for a day is now, well, we didn't get it done this day, so now we need to pack up all your tools, wait for the electric to be done, patch drywall, and then come back to do this. So now we're there for 2 days, 2 trips out. The second trip out, turns out they don't have cabinet hardware. So it's you had 2 jobs. 1, get the cabinets there and inspect and make sure they're okay, and 2, get hardware. She said, we totally forgot about hardware. Of course you did. So now it's a 3rd trip out, right? Now, if I'm doing a bigger project, I always have a contract that'll state if I have to make multiple trips out due to materials not being on site, what have you, we charge an extra trip charge, just to cover that cost. But something like this, I don't even bother. I give them a quick QuickBooks estimate, install owner furnished cabinets and hardware, done in a day, $800. That $800 was gone so fast. turned into phone calls with the electrician, emails back and forth with the homeowner, 3 trips out for my guy. And what does Todd get? Nothing. I mean, I didn't make a dime on that project. So you look at that and just think, I've spent my own time on that. I've paid my guy to do that. Electrician made money on it. Customer's happy. The only person not happy is the guy who facilitated everything and made that actually come to fruition, because I didn't upcharge my electrician, which I should have, but I didn't. I just had him bill him directly. And I just didn't have enough built into a small project like that. I wasn't planning on 3 trips. So I said, you look at that and you just reconsider everything. And it's so now I have a guy who had 3 trips out there and I made nothing. It's why am I doing this? When I feel like I could probably run 3, 4, maybe 5 projects throughout a year and just manage them beautifully, start to finish, organize all the necessary subs, make sure everything is so dialed in, scope of work is dialed in, materials are all on site, everything is checked in and in good condition, and just run that job the way I know how to run a job. And if I'm doing some small stuff just to, expedite things, make things move a little quicker, doing some finished carpentry stuff, small stuff, fine, So that's the thought I've had over the past few days, which I know you've brought up to me before. Why don't you just do less projects and do bigger projects?
I've been bringing that up since the day I met you.
I know. Because, I take the small ones. I take the small, stupid projects, always thinking I want to develop that, grow a client base, have employees. But why?
Sure. And there's nothing wrong with that. We can nitpick everything that you did wrong on that, but that's not the point. The point is, do you want to run with employees or not? And that was an example of what could go wrong. And yes, we can sit there and nitpick all of you didn't do your due diligence. on that project enough
Sure.
to, you could have went out there ahead of time. You could have saw that there was a outlet there. So that
Yep.
could have brought up a red flag, and you could have kind of laid that out and seen if it was going to be a problem or not. You, you know, although you probably would not have known, no matter what you'd done, that it was sawzalled before and not, it was not in working condition. So that I don't know how you could have foreseen.
Right.
You need to upcharge every dollar that goes through you. I mean, you have to,
Yeah.
you know, for
Sure.
multiple reasons, but
Yep.
for the simple fact that, you know, you're a business too, and you need to grow and be around next year. So, yeah, there's a lot of things, but you know, that's a great example of having employees. And so that's a big con example. But I guess to play the devil's advocate on that one is, you know, but if you do put in the time, effort, and money to train the right employee,
Yeah.
and I think that's the trick, is finding the right person, and then they stick with you, then it can be a beautiful thing. But man,
Sure.
in today's age, nobody sticks around. So that's tough. You spend all that time, effort, money, training. Finally, a few years later, you can finally start booking projects that they can do on their own, and you can start making money off of them. And then they decide to go out on their own because in 2 or 3 years, they're experts.
Yeah. Right.
So, which is what everybody thinks now. I just don't understand. Like, you know,
Well,
but that's just
like we
how
used to
it
say,
is.
right? You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, and
So
they
those
don't.
guys who they get that
Yeah,
sudden confidence at year 2 and 3, and it's like you have no
yeah,
idea the number of things that you do not know.
yeah,
You have no
yeah.
idea. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's no secret that I'm against employees from the get-go. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And it's mostly from more of like the responsibility aspect of it. I
Sure.
never wanted to be responsible for whether or not somebody's going to, you know, make a paycheck or, you know, make his rent or whatever. I didn't want that responsibility. I didn't want the pressure of having to go out and get that small project or the big project or whatever project and just take
Yeah.
it because I had to. I didn't want that. I
You're
didn't,
right.
you know, and I felt like employees was going to put that added pressure on me. So I was just, I no. So, you know, trade partners gave me that flexibility, that freedom to say no to the projects that I didn't want, and
Mhm.
not have that burden of trying to make sure everyone's happy and everyone's getting their 40, because
Right.
that's not, I have no interest in making sure everyone's working 40. I don't want to work 40. What? Why would, what? Like,
Right.
no, you know?
And
Uh,
that's the conclusion I've been drawing lately is just the, I again getting into the mid 40s. I don't have kids. I don't have college funds to worry about. Like there's that freedom that creeps in where it's like,
yeah.
I would like to take off on a Wednesday and go golfing. I would like to cut out, have a long weekend
Well,
and go do something
you can
fun.
still do that with employees, and arguably you can do that more so
Maybe.
if it, but you, it takes a decade, or it takes many years to get to that point where you've built a machine that can run on its own without you there, and
Yeah.
that takes employees, and that takes trust, and that takes the right employees, and you have to
Mhm.
filter through the many to find the few, and you have to spend a significant amount of investment in them. It's just what do you want? There's plenty of people out there that want big companies with a lot of employees, and that's what they want, and that's great. That's great.
Sure.
you know,
Yeah.
and if you can find the right people and the right employees to stick around and be loyal and work, I mean, that's great. Good for you. But
Yeah.
that sounds like it sounds awful to me. Sounds like a hell of a lot of work. And don't get
It
me
is an
wrong,
awful lot of work. Yeah.
I love training, I love teaching, I don't mind any of that.
Right.
Love it. But
Sure.
it's, you know, disheartening when they leave. You've
Sure.
trained, you've spent however much time teaching said person, and they decide they're going to leave for whatever reason. It's like,
Mhm.
ugh, what I've given you like a part of me, right? I've
Yeah.
given you so much information and I've taught you so much, and you're just going to up and leave.
Right.
And there's no like loyalty anymore.
There is.
I mean, there, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
And to
I don't,
some
maybe there
extent,
shouldn't, I don't know.
yeah, to some extent with some, someone younger who is learning this business, depending where their life goes, I can understand it, right? So if you end up having a family, you're looking at benefits and, health, and you want health insurance. You want to make sure your kids that have to go to the eye doctor and have to go to, all that stuff. You want to make sure you have 401k. That makes sense. I completely understand that. So a guy like me, I'm not gonna offer that. You know, um, for me, it's more someone who's like myself. I'm looking for someone who's more just kind of independent and doesn't really have that many, you know, really just that. They're independent. They don't have dependents. They're not worried about kids. They're not worried about this or that. So, and that's probably why I gravitated towards hiring and training people in their mid 20s, late 20s. That's where they were at. So,
That's what you're going to get. Yeah,
right.
that's
So
what
they're
you're going to
getting the
get,
foot in
right?
the
Cuz
door, and, you know, they're
yeah.
getting experience. I get to train them and kind of shape them the way I want them. But then to your point, it's like, are they going to stick? No. They're not going to. None of them are going to stick. I pretty much already know that. You know, the
Yeah,
one who's
cuz
been here
they
for
want to
2 years
grow,
now.
and yeah,
Yeah,
they want to grow and become a family like you said, which
yeah.
you kind of talked yourself right into this. They
Hmm.
you don't, if you're not going to offer benefits, if you're not going to offer all those other things, of course they have no choice but to leave,
Right. Yeah. If
right?
they end up having families, then
As they
sure, they
grow.
have no
Yeah.
choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I completely understand that. Completely understand
Yeah.
that. You know. So, and I
Yeah.
don't have any, would never have any ill will towards anyone that did that. Um, but it just brings up the point too. It's like, do you want to keep doing that? Do you want to keep training a guy and he's here for 2 years and he have like my God, I just saw this today. They're trimming out a high end place we're doing downtown. Very nice. And just in the laundry room, I gave him the newer guy. I said, it's a 3-piece base. So it's base, cap, and shoe, right? And I just pointed out, I said, just run this up to this corner here. It just dies into they had a platform for a washer dryer, a stackable washer dryer. So I said, just butt cut that right into that platform right there, and then just run it right around to the casing. And it was just a flat stock casing that was already there. We never even touched it from the beginning of the remodel. And instead of running the casing, just finishing the cut so it butts right into the casing, I'm sorry, running the base and cap so it butts right into the casing, he mitered it and then has the base and cap on the casing and then just butt
On?
cut. Yeah, on the case. So he actually nailed it onto the casing, base and cap, and then just square cut it. So if you're walking that room and you look at the edge, you see just a square cut of baseboard and cap nailed to the casing. And I'm just looking at that thinking, how on earth would you arrive at that is the way that that should look? Like what
Yeah.
what would make you think that that was the proper way to finish that? just made no sense. But then you think like, I can't ever leave. I can't ever leave these guys alone. Because if you do something like that, God only knows what you're going to do if I'm gone for 3 hours. I was only gone for 25 minutes, you know? So you just look at that and think like, holy shit, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? You know, there's part of that that's like, it's a job in and of itself to train these guys. Where it's like, if I had like a full-time lead guy, you know, who's been doing this for years, and I had him doing stuff, and then I was training someone, or vice versa. I was getting stuff accomplished, and he was training someone. Maybe it works out, but it's like you need to dedicate so much time into teaching these guys stuff. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even want to think of how much time and effort and money it's cost just to attempt to train these people. You know?
Yeah,
So,
well, I think this is interesting because I'm coming to a defining line in the sand with this
yeah.
as we talk. You brought up a really good point that it's like you're not offering benefits because you're smaller, and so that
Right.
means you're only going to attract, you know, the kid out of high school who wants to start, you know, something, and
Right.
he's more, and then they're obviously apt to leave later because there's still nothing there to hold them there. So my argument would be, or question would be, why not offer the benefits, or eventually get to that point? Because either you have to plan on growing to that point to offer benefits,
Right.
in my eyes. Otherwise, you're just dragging yourself through the mud and constantly asking for turnover, and
Mhm.
then and and then complaining about it, right? You have to kind of accept that and then say that's just how I want to run my business, which is totally fine. But then you have to accept that everyone's going to eventually leave, and you're just going to have to continually, you know,
Right.
you're never going to be able to leave a job site
Yeah.
because that's the business plan you have in place,
Right.
right?
You're gonna keep it's a cycle. You're just gonna keep
It's a
reliving
cycle.
the
Yeah,
same
and that's
thing.
the business plan you just created, whether you
Yeah.
realize it or not. And
Right.
I'm just kind of coming to this as we talk, like, man,
Sure.
you either have to go all in and do the benefits and everything, and potentially then you can start advertising and possibly getting that lead carpenter that you were talking about.
Mhm.
Because no lead carpenter or anyone that's worth anything is going to go to a company that's not offering them any benefits. There's
Sure.
plenty of companies out there that
Um,
are.
unless they get it through their wife's work.
Sure, but they still
Then
want
maybe.
401k.
Oh yeah, right. You're still gonna want something.
So there's
Yeah.
still stuff, there's
Of
still
course.
benefits that they
Of
should
course.
still want and get.
Right.
Everyone wants to retire sometime, eventually, maybe. But it's like, yeah, you have to go. I mean, if you're going to have employees, you kind of have to plan on offering everything that everyone else is, or at
Yeah.
least, you know, have a plan to get there
And I agree with
quickly,
you. I agree with you.
or
Yeah.
say, you know what, no, I'm not going to do that. And then now we're back to the question, okay, then do you just run trade partners?
Right. And I agree with it, with everything you just said. Because the most recent hire, he's been with me for about 6 months now. And he asked when he started, he said, do you offer any insurance or anything like that? And I said, I don't. I said, I offer paid vacation. After you're with me for a year, I give you paid vacation. And I do try to offer, like, you know, I will absolutely, if there's seminars to go to, if there's any sort of like hands-on educational thing, we'll go. Whether that be through, some of the vendors that we use, lumber yards or mill workshop, whatever. If there's something we can go to, we'll go. Like I would love for you guys to learn everything that you can. So I try to offer something, but I did tell him, you know, I would like to get to that point where I was offering that. And to me, it's like what they call that sweet spot is like I would have 3 guys in the fields and I would be off the tools completely. And then have maybe a part-time like administrative help kind of person. So if I get to that point, I would love to be able to do, yeah, we offer health insurance. Yes, we offer some sort of, whether it be 401k or profit sharing or something to that effect, right? So I like the idea of growing in that capacity, right? But then you look at like all the hiccups I already have and all the crap you already deal with. And it's like getting to that. Now, do I want to also involve health insurance and profit sharing and something else? Or do I want to just say, fuck this and say, I don't need any of this. I don't need to be doing payroll every 2 weeks. I don't need to be covering workers' comp every fucking month. I don't need to be making sure you guys are busy 40 hours a week. I don't need to be worried about your 401k and how much profit I'm going to share with you when, if these projects do go well. Why don't I take all of that out of the equation and just do bigger projects and just run them the way I know they need to be run? And that's it. And if I really had nothing to do, then fine. Then I take the small project that I can do myself just for, spending cash and whatever, right? And it's like that right now, I'm not going to lie, sounds a hell of a lot better than offering health insurance and 401k and really dialing in employees that are worth it or not worth it. And are they going to stay or not going to stay? And are they even going to show up Monday? Or are they going to be on time? Or can I trust that they're going to be there until 4:00 when I leave at 2? Like, there's just so many things that it's just, yeah, I don't know what's worth it. And the more I talk about this out loud, it's like I keep leaning towards that same thing of just maybe keep these guys on for the summer and just tell them, like, give them a, far enough heads up and be like, look, this is just the direction I'm going. I'll give you glowing reviews and references and whatever else, but, start looking somewhere else,
Okay. But, but you're talking about operating like I was operating, or at least wanted to get to operating. Yeah. And I think that's great. But do you think that that's better?
I think
for you.
And that's why I say it's a conundrum, right? Yeah, that's the thing. And that's why I say I'm not making any rash decisions, because for me now, I've recently moved. My life has changed quite a bit over the past year. So I don't want to make a whole bunch of rash decisions and end up regretting that, right?
Sure.
There was always that part of me, because my father had a small business, my uncle had a small business, my grandfather had a small business. There's always that part of me where it's like, I like having my own small business. And I do like you had mentioned, I do like to train people. I do like to show someone how to teach someone how to do something. And I like the idea of just giving someone a job. Like I'm providing work for someone. I'm giving you a way through life and well-being. Like I like that idea. But then there's that side of me.
You're providing that for the trade partners. I don't mean to cut you off, but
no, that's true.
I just wanted to point that out, that it's not your employee, but you're still providing a job for others.
That's a very good point, actually. I didn't look at it that way. That's a very good point. Yeah. But there's the part of me right now where it's like, I work a lot. I want more free time. I want to enjoy myself.
You want to go to Arizona.
More. Huh?
You want to go to Arizona.
It's 110. Go to Arizona, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Not now, but
you want to visit.
I got to come out and visit you. I got to go out to California. I got things I want to do. I got things I got to do.
Dude, I've lived here for over 3 years. You still haven't visited.
You've been there 3 years already?
Yep.
Jesus, time goes by fast.
Doesn't it?
So, when you look at it that way, it's like ultimately, and to your point, like you had mentioned, if you were running your business and had employees and they were loyal and they knew what they were doing, you can still achieve that same thing. And I've tried to do that. I was out in Colorado for 4 days, and I had my guys set up to work. They were hanging interior doors and casing them out and putting in baseboard. I know that was a week's worth of work for them, and I know they're capable of doing that. And I said, if something comes up, by all means, call me. So there is that aspect of that, which
but did you ever like put it down though? Even the whole time you were on vacation in Colorado and you're chilling and having a great time, did you ever set it down? Did you ever not think, oh man, like, you know, working today and I wonder if everything's going okay? So keep checking your phone, you know, in case there's an electrical outlet that he pulled 4 foot of wire out of, you know, like
kept pulling wire, just kept coming. I was like, holy shit, man.
It's like, stop. Oh, look at this. It's just like keeps going.
Pulling. Yeah, right. Yeah. Like the magician.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Just kept pulling wire. Why?
Yeah.
Stop.
Right.
Oh my God.
Next he's gonna pop a bunny out of his hat.
Right. So I will say I was very good about it. If so, I obviously first thing in the morning I'm checking my phone just to make sure there's no emergencies or anything like that. And I would say I was pretty good about it. I'd say I probably checked my phone throughout the workday, probably 6-7 times throughout the workday that I would check. You know, when we went hiking a few times. So when we went hiking, a couple times I didn't even take my phone with, and just. I don't care what's happening. I'm shutting it off completely. This is for me. I want to go enjoy myself. And that was it, you know? So I think I was pretty good about it, but that's in the back of your mind, right? Like that's in the back of your mind of just, are they doing a good job? Did everyone show up today? Is the client happy? You know, it goes through your mind. And I don't know how much that changes if you have subs, right? If you're out of town and you have an electrician working somewhere, you know,
well, so
maybe there's a little more accountability there because they're their own business.
That's right. So my point of view, my experience, it's a little different. It's if I have a project going on that that's in the middle of, and I'm going on vacation, but I have my electrician scheduled to be there that week. First off, we do a lot more due diligence. So there's a lot more prep work that goes on. Mm-hmm. But even then, like, he's got his own business. He has his own, like, he's got his own employees. He has more resources than my 20-year-old employee would have.
Sure.
You know? Sure. If left to their own devices. Right?
Right.
So the question would be, would you feel more comfortable with your 20-some-year-old employee or your electrician's company? You know, where it might be an employee of the company of the electrician, but he's got his boss that he can call and say, you know, can't get a hold of Todd, this problem I came up with, what should I do? Whatever. They can talk to the homeowner, they can figure it out, or whatever. Or it goes on hold, you know? I don't know. This is a tough question because it very much depends on the employee and how long they've been with you and the structure of your company and all that. But if we're just talking about Todd's company, then I would say your situation, I would feel more comfortable with the trade partner being stuck on the job site and not being able to get a hold of you if something went wrong.
Right. Yeah. I would have to agree. Yeah. I would have to agree. But that's a good point too. It depends where you're at. Right?
And here's the other thing. Thing. If you're running trade partners and you have a project going on, you know, I've done this many times. I just tell the homeowners, you know, I have a vacation scheduled in the middle of your project. I do this ahead of time though. So like when we sell the project and we start talking about when we're going to start the project and what the schedule is going to look like, we already know that we have a week of downtime because Joe's going on vacation. we're not going to have anybody there.
Right.
So I just don't schedule anything.
Yeah.
It's just a scheduling nightmare, but it's just a scheduling thing. And like, I know I've told you this 100 million times. It was always in the spring you would start getting frustrated because we would have all these phone calls coming in, and I would just say, it's just a scheduling thing. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. Just a scheduling thing.
I do the same thing this spring. I do it every spring.
Every time.
It's routine.
Yeah.
I do it every spring.
It's the best. I don't understand my is in the same situation now. It's like, oh, I got these 3 projects that can start right now. Oh my God, maybe we need to hire another project manager. Maybe we need to do that. And like,
right.
This is the best situation that you can be in. Like, this is awesome. This is great. Now you have projects backed up. Quit your bitching.
Right.
Be happy. Okay. Now we can cool, chill, start looking for the future, start saying yes or no to the right projects, and just let it all ride. Nice and smooth like.
Yeah.
Jeez.
You realize that's a skill, right?
What?
To be able to do that. But like my mentality, and that's partially why I have employees too, or just partially is like wanting to grow a company. When I always put the feelers out to different designers or cabinet shops or, whatever it is. Like, you put that networking time in, you put all that energy into that, and you feel like when that starts to hit you and all that is coming towards you, it's like, okay, this is what I've been working towards. Let's go. Let's get all hands on deck. I got to hire another guy. Who's going to do this project?
All right. Well, Todd, I think this has been good conversation about employees and not employees.
I don't think we went over the cons.
It sounds like
I don't think we went over the cons of using subs, but I don't know that there really are any.
No,
it's not so much the cons of using subs. It's the cons of not having employees. I think is more so the question.
That's good. That's good. Maybe we can touch on that next week.
Yeah.
All right. Well, sounds like you have some thoughts and decisions to make.
On what?
Whether you're going to keep your employees or not, buddy.
What? I wasn't listening to this conversation. What do you mean on what?
And hopefully they aren't either.
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah. Like I said, not making any rash decisions. It's right now it's, a lot all at once, and especially working downtown. I got to get over the hump of the downtown project so I can be done down there, and then I can think a little more clearly. I can have a little more time in my work days to, dedicate to making proper decisions. So,
right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, till next time.
Man. Sounds good. Talk to you, Joe.
All right. Have a good night.
You too, man. Cheers.